Welcome back. Some agencies are already welcoming employees back to offices despite the coronavirus, but the flu could send people back to their home offices later in the fall. Chief information officers should be looking at how to prepare for a combination of the flu and COVID. According to Brigadier General Greg Touhill, U.S. Air Force retired, he's president of AppGate Federal Group and former federal chief information security officer. Greg, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming back. What does this collision of coronavirus and the flu look like in your view? What are the worries that should be on the minds of technology professionals across government?
Well, I think right now it's really important for CIOs, CISOs, and agency heads to be thinking about what happens if we do in fact have a collision between coronavirus as well as the flu season that could potentially disable portions or large swaths of the workforce. So making sure that you have a plan that addresses the fact that you may have casualties in your ranks due to infection is something that we need to really revisit and take a look and make sure that are we prepared for the worst. And things that I would recommend that agency heads and the CIOs look at, first of all, what if we have casualties? How do we make sure that critical functions are maintained, even if all the folks that we have doing them are out because they're sick or disabled? How do we get mutual support from somebody else in the event that our resources are depleted? Can we go to another department or agency? Can we contract that out? And should we have, in fact, an exercise to make sure that we can do that? Can we cross-train other individuals to accomplish those tasks? How do I make sure that my employees have the best information on public health, making sure they get their flu vaccines? All of these things need to be part of that conversation.
Is this different, and if so, how is it different, either tactically or strategically or both, from your run-of-the-mill coup operations planning?
I think it supplements the coup planning, and you should already have a lot of this ready to go, but now's the time before the main flu season hits that you should be reviewing the worst case scenarios and making sure that your plans are executable, that your employees understand what the plans are, and that you're making sure that if I have this situation, that the roles and responsibilities are well spelled out and that you know what your options are ahead of time.
We talk about risk management a lot on this program, and it's been a big source of conversation in government for the last 5 or 10 years. But we've been doing risk management in our own brains forever, for as long as we've been alive. And I think most people's risk management approach toward this problem might be as simple as, it's probably not going to be that bad. Why is that a bad strategy, Greg?
Well, frankly, the military taught me a long time ago that you plan for the worst, but hope for the best. And right now is the time where you should be planning for the worst so that you're ready to mitigate those risks and fight through whatever problems you have. And as we've seen with previous examples of infectious disease and the like, you really can't predict what the rates are going to be. So you have to prepare for the worst. And making sure that you have a plan is the first step in managing risk, and making sure that you understand what your options are and that your options are feasible, acceptable, and suitable, and of course, affordable to the situation at hand. So making sure that you are ready and you have that plan and start practicing is an important part of preparedness.
So you're on the edge of where I think I wanted to go next, which is you listed some of the things strategically that are very wise for people to be thinking about, especially CIOs and CISOs. Tactically, what should those people be doing now?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, I'd be communicating with my troops. I'd be talking with my employees and sharing not only best practices as far as what they can do, but sharing information like best practices in public health. That's sometimes outside of the CIO and the CISO sweet spot. So I bring in experts in public health to help remind my employees, my colleagues, my teammates on what things that they should be doing. I would also be communicating with them what their roles are in the contingency plans that we may have to exercise if in fact the flu season rolls in and turns out to be particularly bad. So I'd be very transparent. I'd communicate. I'd make sure that we have continuity folders, that we have cross-training, And I would also be talking with my third-party service providers to make sure that they, in fact, are resilient and are prepared for a really bad flu season on top of the COVID, so that if I have a third-party vendor that's critical to my mission, that I have reasonable assurances that they're well prepared as well.
Strikes me one of the biggest potential problems here is the ongoing conversation that I see about remote work fatigue, COVID fatigue, where people are just kind of tired of the whole thing, and that seems to me to be a potential vulnerability too. Is that reasonable to think?
I think so. And, having done several combat deployments where I disappear from my family for months and years at a time, that fatigue factor is something that we plan for in the military and we take active measures to address. And not only fatigue for the member of the military, but also the families as well. So from a leadership perspective, it's really important that agency heads and leaders at all levels are continually re-energizing the workforce and communicating with them the importance of why we are doing things a certain way, and making sure that they have the right information to make the best decisions. Frankly, part of my talk track with my employees is maintaining wellness. The best way I think to burn through the fatigue is to make sure that you're talking about wellness and you're demonstrating it yourself. Encourage folks to get their exercise, sleep well, eat well, and do the right things.
Greg Touhill, great to see you again. Thanks for your time today.
Great to see you too. Thank you, Francis.